everybody. Welcome to another edition of Sports View. I'm Ron Cameron.
And I'm Denny McClain. We have a very special friend of mine with us today, Ray Lane. Ray, of course, has been here since since Moses, I guess.
Here we go again.
As soon as Ron gets the advertisers out of the way, we're going to move on quickly, aren't we?
Oh, we sure are. But let me tell you about the advertisers. Pro-Am Sports System, where you can see the Tigers, Red Wings, and Pistons. They're advertising on the show. Sports Fans Journal, the hottest magazine going. Just dial 751-1818. 24 hours there. We're going slick on the inside. All-color magazine, 92 pages, soon to be 100. Very interesting. And we've added Howard Johnson and John Sadley to the staff. We have Binary Computers on the corner of Woodward and 12 Mile, and that's a real nice place. That's in Berkeley for all your computer needs.
A computer. I need a computer.
Yeah, go see John Waters and the gang down at Binary.
See how quickly he moved along when I asked for something?
I just moved along beautifully, and Ray Lane is here, the Dean of Sportscasters.
I hate that.
And let me tell you something. When you stop and think, Ray Lane's been a Dean. The people that
Came here in 1961. This is my hometown. Came here in 1961. Had my job at Channel 2. 1962.
Graduated Michigan State. Yeah. That was before Duffy. When you went to Michigan State, wasn't it? Before
no, Duffy was there. Duffy was there. I think he was freshman coach then. No, Duffy was there.
Was he?
And of course,
I was his assistant coach.
You left and came back.
By demand, just like all
by
the other
demand,
guys.
obviously.
Sure, yeah. I caught your show a couple of days ago. You're talking about what a great town it is, right? And you got to come back. I'll go 6 years into Cincinnati. Marge Schatz buys a club. Hey, I'm out. But you put 21 years.
You're not the first ones out since Marge Schatz bought that team.
21. Well, the dogs are going to be out next. 21 years in here. It's tough. If you put 21 years into a business, you better go back to where you're known.
Right? It was 1961. I thought you were here when I was a little kid. I remember looking over there's Ray Lane.
Yeah, so you were a usher down at Tiger Stadium,
Just
wasn't
above,
it? That's right.
Yeah.
Were you an usher at Tiger Stadium?
I wiped off the seats a little bit. This is way back when.
I had no idea.
Yes.
Maybe we need to do This Is Your Life, Ron Cameron.
No, definitely not. You don't want that.
Because I remember some little punk kid hanging around the clubhouse all the time.
That was when I was a kid. That's how much older Denny is than me. That proved it right there, guys.
Well, that's when you came up first time at 17, wasn't it?
I just turned 14 and a half.
Okay.
That's right. Tell us about Mr. Carson. Do you know anything additionally that what we've been reading about?
No, I certainly don't. In fact, I thought I came over here for the expert, the expert to find out about Carson. I thought he'd show up maybe over by the shores there before it was all over with. But he made a huge mistake by just walking off the team, I think.
That's totally wrong. He went to California and talked to his dad, and then I tried to call him in Palm Springs all evening, and no answer. I don't know if it was by design or what, but I kept calling all evening, and I'm going to call again today because he should at least called some people and just say, hey, here's what I'm thinking of doing, and just getting some advice that way, because what he did was totally wrong.
You had a guy back a couple 20 years ago. You had a guy every once in a while like to walk off the team, didn't he? Willie take a couple trips once in a while? Horton?
Willie Horton?
Remember one time in New York, he was scatting out.
I don't recall.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm serious.
You don't recall?
Yeah.
No. Willie left the ball? Well, it may have been one of the weekends I wasn't there.
That's right. You left the ball club more than once.
But I always had permission. I always got my checks, I mean, when Willie left, they would dock him for a day's pay. Although back in those days, to use the word pay is kind of ridiculous.
It's a little bit different today, no question
expense
about
money.
that. But Ray, you did the Tigers. Didn't you succeed Harry Hallman with the Tigers? Ty Tyson.
No, when I was a little kid, I remember hearing about those guys. Because that was before. No, it really was.
Were those the best days in your broadcasting career when you were doing the Tigers?
Yes.
That was really a lot of fun.
I mean, I wasn't getting, if the ball players weren't getting paid, the second announcer wasn't getting paid either, baby. I remember asking for $1,000. And Campbell says, hey,
a raise, not $1,000, period. A raise you $1,000, not just $1,000.
And I'm offered $1,000 for a season. And,
a raise, and
Jim Campbell says, hey,
it's not there.
No, it's not there because you're the second guy, and this is what we pay, and that's it. Then I asked the starting shortstop in the World Series of 1968 what he made during the regular season about 5 years later, and he made more money in the World Series than he made as the starting outfielder in center field, Mickey Stanley, during the regular season.
And you got to be kidding.
Stanley made $19,000 in 1968 as a starting center fielder, 1908. $19,800, and he was a starting shortstop in the World Series. His World Series check was worth more money than what he made for the entire season.
Well, I don't want to take issue with you, but it wasn't true because I remember what the check was because the check was only for $10,000.
Well, okay.
but I mean but that's really ridiculous.
That was after all your fines, though, Denny.
No.
That's why it came to $10,000.
I was never. The only guy who ever fined me was a guy named Bob Swift. And
But
God bless you, Bob, but you were lousy.
That was the same hit and run sign, wasn't it?
That was our hit and run side. Well, let me tell you the best sign though. I'm looking. You're talking about. I don't know how we got into this, but Bill Freehand one day. I'm looking down, and we're in deep trouble. Bases loaded, nobody out, and of course I always had trouble with Boog Powell. And I look down, and Freehand has got his fingers crossed like this. That was the sign, you know. Like, what do we do now, you know? But
you say you always had trouble with Boog Powell. Didn't Boog Powell hit that ball you made the triple play on?
Boog Powell, yeah, but that was probably the only time I ever recall getting Boog Powell out. That was it. It was a triple play.
It was hit pretty hard too, wasn't it?
Oh, was it hit hard? You know. I mean, I would have had several children less had it hit me where it was going. But it was a terrific time. But let's get back to your broadcast days.
It's been mediocre, and I just want to keep it that way.
No. You're nothing mediocre about you. Why? Is that the reason you left the Tigers, because of the money thing?
No.
Part of the way, great mistake, part of it. Van Patrick was sick at the same time. They found that he had cancer. Channel 2 people said, hey, if you come back out of baseball, we're going to give you some good money. We want you to do the early sports here. Sit out 1 year. They still had the contract, if you remember, for the television rights. Right. And sit out 1 year, do the scoreboard after Osterman and Kell do the telecast. You do the scoreboard afterward. Sit out 1 year, and then you'll be back on the telecast, probably working with Kell. That's what they mentioned. They didn't promise it, but they said that's what will happen. Funny thing at the bank, in December that same year, TV2 lost the rights to the baseball games that went to WDIV for about an extra $2 million. I'm sitting there around Christmas time, figured I'm out of the baseball, lost the radio, but I quit on my own. But I'm not back in because the TV's going someplace else.
Well,
so I made a mistake.
But you could have stayed with the radio.
Oh yeah, I wasn't being forced out or anything.
Yeah.
And the fact that the person that came in after you left is still there, Paul Carey.
Yeah. Paul came with the franchise.
It was a longevity situation, too. Yeah. But you got your $1,000 you're asking the Tigers for. You got it from WJBK.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. That's it. So I look back now and say, that was a bad call. And if you're looking for a #1 job, the best thing is to stay on the #2 job for baseball. And
but here that wasn't the case because of the simple. Obviously, Paul Carey's making a lot more money today than you did at that time. Yeah. But bottom line here is longevity being involved. Ernie's going to be here till he wants to leave.
Yeah, Ernie is always great. He was always great. We'd take that last series, and usually if the last series was on the road, I can remember walking to Fenway Park one time from the hotel. It was the last series on the road. He said, now, you don't think I'm going to retire, do you? And I said, no. He said, well, I'm planning on being here a few more years. He'd always let you know, hey, I'm doing this, but he would always offer to help you if you wanted to try for another step someplace. That was my mistake. I didn't do that. I didn't go after something.
Did you ever send anybody else? Did you ever talk to anybody else besides Cincinnati about doing play-by-play?
Yeah, I thought I was going to be out in San Francisco about 4 years ago, but it didn't come off.
And you did play-by-play for the now defunct. You were going to say because I don't know.
Well, there's an outfit called Sports Time.
Yeah,
but that was a cable that lasted for a year.
Back, didn't they?
But I went to the Reds, and the last year with the Reds was part of a Sports Time thing where they did games every night. They did Chicago White Sox, they did the Cincinnati Reds, they did the St. Louis Cardinals, Boston Red Sox, and the St. Louis Cardinals. I mentioned the Cardinals. And so you would cross over. One night you'd do an American League game, another night you'd do a National League game. But it was in 17 states. 1/3 of the ownership belonged to Anheuser-Busch. They lost $9 million the first year of the operation in 1984. So Bush says, hey, no more. That's into that. They pulled the plug.
But I'm talking about you did college basketball for Metro. What was it?
Oh, Metro Sports.
And they knifed you right in the back. You know, as far as the money.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah, Sports. That was Sports View. Sports View.
Not Sports View. This Sports View, folks. No.
Sports View.
No, not the show.
Sports View out of down south, and nobody got paid. Bill Fleming, Frisano, who was the color announcer, did all the Big Ten games that year.
You didn't get paid at all?
No, we had a lawsuit and they went belly up and none of us got paid. And production people.
Who owned Sports View at the time?
Oh, I can't think of the name of the guy down in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
You don't want to think
of
the name of the guy.
No. So that was it.
When we come back, we're going to talk Red Wings and see what else is going on. Of course, they were 0-3, then they won a couple, and they lost the other night to Chicago. We're going to talk about that. Let's see how they look.
And money.
If you're a sports fan, you should subscribe to this, Sports Fans Journal, and here's how. Our columnists include Ernie Harwell, George Kell, Denny McLean, Don Cherry, Jimmy Carson, Dick Vitale, George Blaha, Bob Feller, George Allen, and much more, including our new columnist, Piston John Sally. So call our 24-hour hotline at 751-1818. We send Sports Fans Journal anywhere in the U.S. Sports Fans Journal, a must for all sports fans. Call now, 751-1818, 751-1818. We're back on sports. You know, we haven't Ray Lane as guest. We haven't said Ray Lane is now, of course, at Channel 50.
It's Channel 50.
We didn't say that earlier in the show.
Promises to stay there till it gets it right.
Till they what?
Till we get it right. I'm going to stay there till we get it right.
Okay,
Yeah,
but you were at Channel 2 for
21 years.
21 years, and then you've been over to Channel 50 since then, and you're doing quite a bit at Channel 50, and all, including the Red Wings.
Yeah, Red Wings in between periods with Mickey and Dave. That's a lot of fun. Do a lot of specials with the Pistons. I think we got 11 this season, half-hour specials, plus the nightly show. But a guy by the name of Bill Flynn rode in on a white horse, dropped a lot of puckies at Channel 2. Everybody went, just like when you're cleaning out a house of ill repute, whether you're guilty or not, everybody had to leave. And
where were the ratings when you left Channel 2?
They were sinking fast. We were they were approaching police signals.
They were.
Yeah, they were on a downward trend, as they say.
What's happened at Channel 2? It used to be the station.
Yeah, I think not only for the people on the air that some people don't identify with from being from Detroit area, they let some very valuable people behind the scenes get out of the building.
And nobody knew about it as far as the people watching.
Very important people, assignment editors, camera types, people that knew exactly what Detroit was all about, where there were stories, where to get. They let those people go. Some of them went to 7, some of them went to other cities, some of them got out of the business. And those were the people that really, a great supporting cast, and that really hurt.
You made a good point when you say that people that knew Detroit. You've got a lot of sportscasters coming in, Ray, that don't know Detroit. They may be very talented in what they do, they don't know Detroit.
Yeah, I heard you show earlier in the week talking about the new fellow over at WWJ Radio.
Yeah.
And I felt sorry for him. I met him late in the summer, once the Lions camp had started, where he got in Detroit. Man, they had him on the air right away. How nice it would have been for an organization to say, hey, take the 3 weeks here, get to know the city, get to know the people, get to know the directions, the suburbs, and then, I still say that with anybody that's hired in the media right now. Let them know what they're, some guys don't even know they're in town. It's difficult. And I know Mark was having a difficult time of relating to this city.
The one thing about the city of Detroit that's unique, people who live in Detroit want to know about Detroit. Yeah. They don't care about Chicago. They don't care about the Mets and the Yankees. Yeah. And from time to time, people who I think come from other markets have a tendency to want to expound upon what's going on in L.A. I know even with the radio show that I do, I have to be careful once in a while. There is a lot of exciting news going around the rest of the country, but we in Detroit want to know what's going on here because we've got all kinds of exciting things going on in this city. But I know I have to watch it myself from time to time.
Your subject and the people calling are mostly dealing with Detroit, Metro, That's right. And let's say maybe some Michigan problems that they want to talk about.
Anything that may affect their lives, that's what they're interested in.
That's going very well. You sound great.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Going back to the Red Wings now, Ray, the fact that Jimmy Carson is now available, I don't know how interested they are in him. I know at one time they weren't that interested in him, just recently.
Well, I would think if they would look at what they've come up with Joe Murphy for 3 years, that they would be very interested in this guy. And I think if you take a look to see what he's done on the ice once he got to the National Hockey League, you'd be very interested in getting him. I agree with you.
Now, what do you give up for him?
Tough question.
Okay, my feeling is a Joe Murphy.
Oh, sure.
And a Jeff Sharples.
If he wants to play, what do you give up? You know, there is such a thing as reaching a point that you don't want to play anymore.
You mean Joe Murphy?
No, I'm talking about Carson. No. Maybe he just doesn't want to play anymore.
That's not
because if you're going to start getting rid of players, you've got a couple of guys on the Red Wing club that are pretty old.
Jimmy Carson is 21 years of age.
I'm not talking about his age. I'm talking about you got Salming and O'Connell, 38 and 34 years old.
Got no value as far as
they've got no value.
Here's what I'm thinking of doing. You give up a guy on the blue line that I thought was going to be great, Jeff Sharples. You're going to have two potential people and a #1 pick, and maybe toss in somebody else.
I'm going to think you're going to have to get Carson. I really do. Whether he's in the outhouse out there or not, I think you're really going to have to get up. I don't know whether a team like Edmonton would say, "Hey,
Sean Burr."
There you go. Now you're going to. Maybe they say, "Go on."
No. Well, not in the package. Sean Burr, Joe Murphy,
that's what you're saying,
and Jeff Sharples.
There, if I'm saying to you, I want one of your best people. Because if I got a 50-goal scorer, what am I getting in return? Potential, yeah. I want somebody proven in that trade, too.
Interesting.
But I'd still make the deal.
So would I. I think that Jimmy Carson would really play here now, even though what he did was in Edmonton was wrong. He should have never jumped out of the contract, but that's over and done with now. Looking ahead, the Red Wings are still away from the disciplined style that won for them for a few years.
They may be that, but they're still in the middle of the pack, too, in the National Hockey League. I think you can't say that they are the supreme, the elite of the National Hockey League, 1, 2, 3, or maybe even 4 of the teams.
Maybe the 8, 9, 10.
They're in the middle of the pack. They might be one of the leaders in the middle of the pack.
They got to get back to the discipline, don't you think, right?
Well, either that, and also, I think when you take a look at what he did in the offseason, and I'm talking about Devellano and Demers, of picking up older players, that many, 3 of them anyway, and I'm thinking of McKegney and Fedorko and Salming.
And Kostopoulos at the time.
It indicates a real lack of confidence in what you have in your own organization.
Your farm system is not ready to produce the major league level yet.
Right.
Maybe a year away, maybe 2.
That's right. And Probert, what do you think? I mean, would Probert be better off if, in fact, and I think he'll come back into the NHL. I don't think there's any question. But is he better off? Oh, please.
What do you mean, please? What the guy did is a disgrace.
Please. Is he better off going to another market?
I don't think, if there's a 1/10 of a chance that he'll play in the National Hockey League again, I think he'll play here. I don't think they're willing. I don't think the Red Wings are willing. They know that he can be a devastating type of player when he's right. I think if he's going to play again, he'll end up playing here. If he screws up, and I'm not saying on drugs, if he screws up.
Should he be allowed to play again?
I say no.
That's what I'm saying no to.
Why do you say that? Coming from you, we've known each other.
Yeah. No, he's had more chances than a cat. I mean,
addiction, if in fact that was the true problem in this case, if addiction was the real serious problem, and that's his most serious thing in his life, then you got to give him another chance. He's a young man, and to throw him out and just let him go out there and wander only creates a far more serious problem in the future. You've got to give him a shot at playing. We'll be back with more with Ray Lane right
after. Let him get a real job in the world.
You have fun. You learn. You're challenged. The Gymnastic Training Center is for preschoolers to competitive teams and everyone in between. With dedicated coaches, the Gymnastic Training Center has the environment young people can develop in and have fun in safely. The Gymnastic Training Center of Rochester.
If you're a sports fan, you should subscribe to this, Sports Fans Journal, and here's how. Our columnists include Ernie Harwell, George Kell, Denny McClain, Don Cherry, Jimmy Carson, Dick Vitale, George Blaha, Bob Feller, George Allen, and much more, including our new columnist, Piston John Sally. So call our 24-hour hotline at 751-1818. We send Sports Fans Journal anywhere in the U.S. Sports Fans Journal, a must for all sports fans. Call now, 751-1818, 751-1818. We're back on Sports View with Ray Lane, doing many things, Channel 50, of course, the Red Wing between periods and all that stuff. Back to Bob Probert for a second. In my mind, if Probert's playing for the Red Wings, they're a much better team because he gives Yzerman a lot more room. The other teams are afraid. The players are afraid of Bob Probert, the other players.
Now, there's no doubt about that. I've had 2 guys tell me from other teams, and they're both defensemen. They've both been along the boards. They've both been tied up by this guy. Didn't know who they were ready to break up, and they took up and take a look into Probert's eyes. And not because of drugs or alcohol, just that he is a fighting maniac when he's out there. Scared to death of him. Don't want any piece of him. Got to keep them tied up, otherwise they're going to be in the hospital.
But does Probert cause too much internal dissension on his own ball club to be a valuable asset?
You hit it right there. We've seen and read about everything about outside, the drugs. The answer is yeah. I mean, late to meetings, doesn't show up for practice. This affects the team. This affects his teammates. And all of a sudden there's a special rule for Proby Baby. I don't know how long you can tolerate that.
Bottom line is, and if he's going to play anywhere, he's going to play here because other clubs probably would not take a chance on him anyway.
Oh, yes, they would. I talked to general manager the other day, and he said, I said, would you take him if he's unprotected? He said, why not jump at him if he's unprotected? Now, of course, that's not paying much money for. So what kind of value does a Bob Probert have? And he says, well, I'll tell you, Ron, he said he still has some value, but not as much as before because they're afraid of what could happen.
That's right. He's on a date, even if
other teams do want Bob Probert. That's why they protect him.
For the rest of his life, he'll live on the edge.
Exactly right. And you've got another one right here in Detroit playing with the Pistons. Bedford. Day to day, they don't know the next day whether he's going to show up at practice. But, of course, Bedford has not made it in professional sports like a Probert has.
Well, you look at Bedford and the Pistons. Are the Pistons doing the right thing bringing Bedford back?
You know, now I'm giving two standards here when I said
Probert. Hear this
now, yeah, and all of a sudden I'm saying he's back in camp. He looks pretty good if he stays clean. Oh, what a great opportunity! I sat down with the general manager of that club, and I went in, and I was going to be the hawk about get rid of him. That's it. He's had his last chance. He shouldn't do it. And he asked me. He said, "Have you ever been close to anybody in your family or a friend that's had a problem?" I said, "No." He said, "Let me tell you about something." He told me one of the most heart-stirring stories about his own son, who's institutionalized in Oregon.
Who is this then? Jack
McCloskey. And when I left his office, I felt that Jack McCloskey knew a lot better of how to deal with a player that had a problem than I ever did. So I've sat back, and I've been on the fence a couple times.
Well, then again, then I even come back stronger. Then why would you feel so condemning in regard to Probert?
I saw Probert.
He's still a young guy.
Of the drinking, I saw Probert. I was so close to it to where I saw how he affected some of his teammates by not coming to practice, not giving a darn. This other guy just sort of wanders off and just doesn't show up.
Yeah, but again, you have to blame that on the problem, serious problem that he had.
How many chances? I guess maybe I should have my Bible here and say, well, you have as many chances as you want, I guess.
Oh, no, I don't think he's going to get a further chance. I think this is bottom line.
Oh, you mean on Probert?
On Probert.
Oh,
I said last time, though, Denny.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it wasn't quite as serious as the last time at the border with the customs people. You know, and geez, I don't know how it got in my underwear.
He said he was at a party and grabbed the wrong underwear. That's what he said. I said yes. He didn't say that at the beginning.
I'm not going to touch it. Let's talk about Mr. Gretzky, the great Gretzky. Just went by Mr. Howe. You've seen a lot of hockey in the city of Detroit, around the NHL.
He saw Howie Morenz. He saw.
No, I didn't.
There's no truth to the rumor that you were involved in the first company that invented the puck.
No, but I'm thinking about putting a bait and lingerie shop together on Tawas. How's that? No. How do I feel about the Gretzky setting the record? Hey, all records are set to be broken, right?
Gretzky a better player than Howe?
Probably can do. Not as physical. No, I'd say no. More speed, yes. Variety of shots, yeah. Defensive player, all-around player, no. Longer schedule, yes. More opportunities to score, yes. Style of play different, yes. Two different eras, difficult to say. I'll take the Howe because I was a kid when Howe was coming up. So I remember.
Not really.
I remember him as a teenage idol as far as I was concerned.
Well, don't forget one more thing before closing on this thing. Gordy fought his own battles. Gordy took more punishment. Wayne Gretzky doesn't take the punishment in front of the net than, say, a guy like Gordy did. Right. Gordy dished it out as much as that, and he just did a lot more things. That's much better player.
Schedule, I think, was, I won't say was tougher. You only had 6 teams in the league that time. But more games to play now. So you can say, well, one is as bad as the other.
But hockey's got to be the same as it is in every other sport. We got so many more teams. We've got so many more players. Certainly the caliber of the athlete itself has been reduced.
But I asked Gadsby, I asked Howe, I've asked Lindsay, can he play that Gretzky 25 years ago in your league? Every night. Great player.
Gretzky, absolutely.
What a fet right.
A terrific player.
Yeah.
I mean, you could never say that he couldn't have played 25 years ago. There's a guy who goes around the country in baseball, card shows and dinners, Enos Slaughter, that says none of the guys today in the major leagues can play. Enos Slaughter is, I mean, Enos Slaughter is got a lot of pettiness about him because of the fact that they make so much more money. He's a Hall of Famer, and Hall of Famers have a tendency to, as they get older, they develop little idiosyncrasies like everybody's bad today, and he's the only
played the game the way that a lot of them today don't play, though he played hard every single day.
Enos Slaughter probably couldn't have played very much in today's era because of the He was a World War II player. Let's not get into it.
So what?
We'll do another show on Enos Slaughter, and we'll bring up credentials.
Let's bring Enos on the show.
Let's get Enos. Well, but he's always on a pulpit somewhere preaching about how bad these guys are.
He's right.
We'll be back with more in just a moment.
Dunks, listen, you want to get high? I got some great stuff.
No thanks, Mike. That junk's bad news.
Smart kid. He doesn't need that stuff. Nobody does. I'm McGruff, the crime dog. Now, watch these kids.
I'm bored. Why don't we get wasted?
Why don't you get real?
I've got a better idea. Why don't you get lost?
See that? It's happening everywhere. So, if anyone ever wants to turn you on, just turn them off. It's a great way to help take a bite out of crime.
The ever-changing faces of the Detroit Red Wings. Keep up to date with the off-season strategies every month on Red Wing Magazine. We'll cover the trades, the draft, and training camp as the Wings prepare for another run at this year's Stanley Cup. Join Mickey Redman each month as he interviews players, coaches, and looks back at the shining moments of the past seasons. Red Wing Magazine, another exclusive presentation from Michigan's cable network of champions, Pass Sports.
Binary Computers is celebrating their 9th anniversary, and how they've become one of Detroit's top independent computer dealers is really simple. A great selection of brand-name computer products, outstanding service, and highly knowledgeable trained consultants who make things understandable in plain English. Binary now has facsimile machines and telephone systems, so stop in for special anniversary savings at Binary Computers, Metro Detroit's business computer center, Woodward at 12 Mile, Berkeley. Remember, if you haven't got a computer, you'd better get one before your competitor does.
What do these women have in common? They were all Girl Scouts. Girl Scouting showed them that they could do or be anything. An ambassador to the United Nations or an Olympic champion. Girl Scouting inspires girls to dream big and prepares them to meet the challenges of a demanding adult world. Your daughter should be a Girl Scout. She'll be in very good company, and she'll get the right start.
We're back closing it out with Ray Lane, longtime voice of the Tigers, now with the Red Wings and everything. What do you think of the Red Wings the way they are right now? Are they good enough to win the Norris Division? I think they're
I think they're good enough to. I really do. I think they're good enough. I think the Norris Division, they can win it. They can also lose it. But I would be surprised if they ever get to the semifinals.
I agree with you.
Yeah, but the bottom line and I've said this on a number of occasions on this show, is that when you win a game in the NHL, you automatically qualify for the playoffs.
It's pitiful.
I mean, we're not talking, we're not talking serious competition to make the playoffs. I think that's a joke. I think it's a joke that they can keep running these players back and forth to the minor leagues without any restrictions. I mean, hockey really needs to clean up their act. And I'll tell you this, I believe hockey one day should go to two halves. They would then wind up with the contract that they're entitled to on the networks. The Canadian game as it was designed was great then, but the Canadian game doesn't fly in the United States. Not very well in many markets.
Not at all?
I know, not at all. I know an NFL coach who thought they did play halves. He and his wife left after the second period when hockey was being played in Oakland in the NHL and left. Wondered why everybody else wasn't leaving. They beat the crowd. Then he heard it on the radio after they're driving out of the parking lot. True story. It used to be a lot.
Hey, Ray, thanks a lot for coming on. Been a pleasure as always.
I appreciate being on with you. And good luck. And good to see the Denny back in town.
Are you touching your hair?
Not yet. Not yet. No.
Then we've got advertisers.
It's not great anyway.
Let them talk what they want. Here's the advertisers. We've got no, we don't. No, you got me all confused. Binary Computers.
We've got Allo Products.
Binary on the corner of Woodward and 12 Mile in Berkeley. We got Sports Fans Journal, the hottest magazine going. Dial 751-1818, going glossy on the inside, all color magazine. Wait till you see that, Ray. And we have Pass Pro-Am Sports Systems. We have just about everything else. What else did I missed one? But that's it. We're out of time, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.